I succeed.
I went down to the bookstore this evening and found myself in the poetry section. But for every thin book of poems, there was a thick biography of the poet, and an even thicker book written by someone who's supposed to know, explaining what the poet was supposed to have said and why he didn't. So, you don't have to waste your time on the best the poet could do, the words he fought, the darkness and himself for, that unequal battle with beauty. Instead, you can read comfortably about the worst the poet could do, the mess he made of his life. But that was then, now I am, and do not expect tomorrow or yesterday, today. Instead, I write in ecstasy. And when someone stops to say, "Hey, that's not true," I yell backwards, "For who?" And fuck rhyme. Conventionally, we think of knowledge as something that sets us free. However, we often ignore the fact that knowledge can constrict or control the view of the world around us. Be it personal knowledge, scientific discovery, or simply even the truth, newfound knowledge can control just as much as free us. However, as Isaac Asimov once stated, if knowledge can create problems, it is not through ignorance that we will solve them. Through the poetry In the Bookstore by Julia Vinograd, Kindergarten by Danny Sherrard, Rainbow by Jack Riddle, When the Bough Breaks by Andrea Gibson, Not as Smart as I Think I Am by Kristen O'Keefe Optowitz, and Cleveland Undercover by D.A. Levy, a program arguing that knowledge frames the world around us, but that frames inherently restrict. So science is the bully on the playground, the kid who says, "Babe Ruth was just a drunk," the boy who rolls his eyes when all the trees bud. Well, you know elves live under your porch, that God loves puppets, that the wind comes from the witch's cave, and that birds sang just to sing. Well, what if Wordsworth, strolling along the lakes, had looked up, taken out his pen, and speculated how the color came from the light refracted through the drops of dust that formed around some rain? I have pinpointed the exact moment I stopped wanting to learn in a classroom atmosphere. It was in kindergarten, when I was told to think like everyone else. You see, I had been drawing God with crayons, and I gave him fountain fingers and mountains and rainbow tears, and he was in a childlike daze. God doesn't cry, my teacher told me. He's invisible. And crumpled up my page. I left the poetry section thinking about burning the bookstore down, but I went to the next section and I bought myself a murder mystery, but I haven't read it yet. I find I don't want to know who done it and why. I want to do it myself.
And I know that the 57 in Heinz 57 refers to the number of pickles the company used to sell. And I also know that graham crackers and cornflakes were originally created to prevent masturbation. But I can't tell you the difference between a seal and a sea lion. Or the difference between an alligator and a crocodile, although I think it has something to do with the shape of their snouts.
Next week in Sunday school, we were asked to draw God, and I actually thought twice before beginning to draw a beautiful woman. She resembled my mother. I began to cry. My Sunday school teacher took me outside and scolded me for sitting. It had been a heavy week, but I kept my paintbrush feet, and on the long walks home from school, I would draw the seasons through themselves and contemplate growing wings to escape this concrete reality. Right now, there is a 6-year-old girl in Lebanon crouched in a ditch wishing on falling bombs. Right now, our government is recording the test scores of Black and Latino 4th graders to see how many prison beds will be needed in the year 2014. Right now, there is a man outside at my doorstep on the street with outstretched hands full of heartbeats no one can hear, his cheeks like torn sheet music, every tear broken crescendo falling on deaf ears. And at his side, there's a boy with eyes like an anthem no one stands up for. Do we really believe our need for Prozac has nothing to do with Fallujah, with Kabul, with the U.S.-Mexican border, with the thousands of U.S. school children bleeding budget cuts from wounds that will never heal to fuel war tanks? Thank God for denial. Thank God we can afford the makeup to pile upon the face of it all. Look at the pretty world. Look at the smiling people. And the sky with a steeple through her heart and a missile in her teeth, and not a single star left to hold her.
And I know that something called the wingless fly in Antarctica, but I only know this because I saw it on a PBS Kids show once, and also I had to Google the spelling of Antarctica because my computer dictionary told me I wasn't even close. You know, they say that there's a part of the human chest that if you strike it hard enough, the person's heart will explode. This sounds like such a lie, I have to believe it's the truth. If I were science, I wouldn't tell anyone about this place. If I were science, I'd name this place after you.
And what do we make of Philip, Plato's less than certain pal, who scribbled in his notebook that the rainbow wasn't stable after all? It moved as the observer moved? And that somewhere over the rainbow was farther than any bluebird could ever fly. So, if science is as uncertain as tomorrow's weather, I think I'll say the rainbow like most everything. This poem, elephants, the hurricane off Georgia's coast, my daughter scribbled chalk across the sidewalk is not just another warm and anonymous effect and causes long and flagrant history. I'll say the rainbow simply comes. Light may bend, refract, but why then color?